In this video, we begin part one of a vital training topic, entry into enclosed spaces, awareness and preparation. Before we even talk about equipment, gas detectors, or checklists, let's take a moment to reflect why this topic matters. Let me ask you something. Have you ever stood at the edge of a dark tank or narrow access hatch and thought, it's just a quick look, I'll be in and out? That's exactly how most confined space fatalities begin, with a false sense of confidence and the assumption that it's safe because nothing looks wrong. Now imagine this. A crew member goes into a void space without testing the air. He doesn't come out. His friend, worried, goes in after him, without alerting anyone or grabbing emergency gear. Within minutes, both are unconscious, and now you have a rescue turning into a recovery. That's not a rare accident. That's a scenario that has happened again and again across the maritime industry. This training exists to break that chain. We are here today not to scare you, but to build awareness and, more importantly, to build habits. Habits that will stop you from making the decision you can't take back. In this video, we'll explore what truly defines an enclosed space, what hazards exist, even when the space looks harmless, what procedures must be in place, and how to make sure no one enters blindly or alone. This is not about checking boxes. It's about understanding why each step exists and how each one keeps you and your team alive. So, I invite you to participate, ask questions, and share your experience in the comments. Because enclosed space safety is not just the responsibility of one person. It's a team discipline. Let's begin. This video lays the foundation for everything we're going to discuss today. Let's make one thing clear. The most important safety actions don't happen inside the enclosed space. They happen before you step through the hatch. Why is that? Because by the time you realize something is wrong inside, it might already be too late. You won't hear an alarm. You won't feel pain. You might not even have time to call for help. You could take a single breath and collapse. That's how dangerous enclosed spaces can be when underestimated. Now think about this. Almost every enclosed space incident we investigate could have been prevented if someone had simply stopped and asked, have we prepared enough before entry? That's the key message today. Safety starts before you enter. Before opening a hatch, ask yourself, has the air been tested and properly tested at multiple levels? Are all isolations confirmed? Is ventilation running and effective? Is the permit valid and signed? Is there a standby person monitoring and ready to respond if something goes wrong? It's just like firefighting. You don't walk into smoke without knowing the source of the fire. Likewise, you don't enter darkness unless you're sure the air won't kill you. Preparation is not a formality. Preparation is survival. So from this point forward, whenever you hear the words enclosed space, I want you to immediately ask yourself, have we done the preparation? Because your safety depends on what you do before you enter. Now that we understand why safety starts before entry, let's take a look at what we aim to cover in this video. These are the learning objectives for part one of our enclosed space entry training, the awareness and preparation phase. Let's walk through them together. First, you'll learn what qualifies as an enclosed space. Not every tight or small compartment on board is an enclosed space, but many are. We'll define exactly what makes a space hazardous and why assumptions can be dangerous. Second, we'll explore the real risks of entering these spaces, not just theoretical dangers, but actual proven risks based on real-world incidents, low oxygen, toxic gases, and the very real possibility of multiple fatalities during failed rescues. Third, we'll talk about atmospheric testing, how to use the gas detector correctly, where to test, when to test, and why it must be done at multiple heights, not just at head level. Fourth, we'll go over the permit to work system. This isn't just about paperwork. The permit proves that someone has checked and authorized the job, and that you have official clearance to proceed under safe conditions. Fifth, we'll clarify the roles and responsibilities during enclosed space operations. Everyone involved, the entrant, the attendant, the supervisor, must understand their job. If one person fails, the entire operation is at risk. Sixth, we'll review the pre-entry checklist. This is the backbone of your safety preparation. You don't skip steps. You don't rely on memory. You use the checklist every time. Finally, we'll wrap up part one with a demonstration or drill. You'll get to see and practice how a proper enclosed space entry is done. These objectives aren't just academic. They're practical, and they're here to ensure you don't become a case study. By the end of this session, you should be able to approach any enclosed space with the right mindset, the right preparation, and the right tools. Before we talk about danger or procedures, let's get something absolutely clear. What exactly is an enclosed space? Because if we don't understand what counts as an enclosed space, we won't recognize the hazard until it's too late. So, by definition, an enclosed space is any space that has limited openings for entry and exit, is not designed for continuous worker occupancy, and has inadequate natural ventilation. That's the formal definition. But let me put it in simpler words. If it's hard to get into, hard to get out of, and the air doesn't circulate properly, it's likely an enclosed space. Now, on board a ship, that includes areas like ballast tanks, fuel tanks, void spaces, chain lockers, cofferdams, cargo holds when sealed, even certain ducting or pipe tunnels. These spaces are often structurally tight, dark, and rarely entered unless maintenance or inspection is required. Here's the key. Just because a space is big doesn't mean it's safe. Some cargo tanks are massive, but they're still enclosed spaces because they don't have free-flowing air and the atmosphere can be deadly. Also, just because you've entered before and nothing happened doesn't make it safe now. Conditions inside an enclosed space change all the time due to temperature, pressure, residual cargo, or chemical reactions. Let me give you a quick test. If you open a hatch and it smells musty, stale, or metallic, if you see condensation or rust trails, if you hesitate even for a moment, that's your gut telling you, test it, ventilate it, respect it, because no matter how routine the job feels, the hazard remains hidden until we verify it's not. So remember, don't just think about size. Think about air. Think about isolation. Think about access. An enclosed space is not defined by how dangerous it looks, but by how dangerous it can become. Now that we know what an enclosed space is, let's talk about what makes it dangerous. And I don't mean theoretical danger, I mean real, proven, documented danger. Danger that has killed people, experienced crew, good people, sometimes in under a minute. Here are the top 3 threats we face inside an enclosed space. 1. Oxygen deficiency. You don't need flames or chemicals to be in danger. You just need to breathe air that's missing something vital. Oxygen. Normal oxygen level is about 20.9%, but many confined spaces can drop below 19.5% without warning, sometimes down to single digits. When it falls below 10%, you might not even notice. You just get dizzy, collapse, and stop breathing. And here's the worst part. There's no smell, no sound, no visible sign. You can be talking 1 second and unconscious the next. 2. Toxic gases. Gases like hydrogen sulfide, carbon monoxide, methane, or residual vapors from cleaning agents or fuel all can be present in confined spaces. Hydrogen sulfide smells like rotten eggs until it paralyzes your sense of smell. Carbon monoxide is totally odorless and binds to your blood faster than oxygen. Hydrocarbon vapors can cause unconsciousness and even cardiac arrest. These gases may be left behind from past operations generated by corrosion or leaking from surrounding spaces. And again, you won't see them. 3. Explosive atmospheres. Some confined spaces can contain flammable vapors in just the right concentration to explode if triggered by static, lighting, or equipment. This is especially dangerous in cargo tanks, paint lockers, or fuel systems. Imagine bending down to adjust a valve, and a single spark from your torch or radio sets the entire space ablaze. But here's a harsh truth. Most confined space deaths don't happen during entry. They happen during rescue. Someone goes down, doesn't come back. A colleague, without thinking, goes in after them. Now 2 bodies are inside, sometimes 3, all because someone cared, but wasn't prepared. That's why we emphasize this so strongly. The danger isn't always obvious, but it's always real. So every time you approach an enclosed space, remind yourself, I can't see danger, I can't smell danger, I can't feel danger, but danger may still be there. And unless I test, prepare, and protect myself, I may not get a second chance. So now you know the risks: oxygen deficiency, toxic gases, explosions. But some might still think, it won't happen to me. Well, it has happened to people just like us, on vessels just like this, doing jobs that felt routine. Let me share 2 real-life case studies that highlight just how fast and how tragically things can go wrong in an enclosed space. Case study number 1, the engine room void. A second engineer was asked to check a small void space in the engine room. It had been sealed for only a few days. He believed it was fine, didn't test the air, didn't wait for ventilation. Within 30 seconds of entering, he collapsed. The rating who was on standby panicked and ran in after him. Without calling for help or grabbing a breathing apparatus, both were found unconscious. Only one survived. After intensive care. What went wrong? No atmospheric testing, no standby rescue gear, no communication or external monitoring. This was not an act of recklessness. It was a failure of preparation. Case study number 2, the double fatality in cargo. Hold, a cargo ship was anchored off the coast for routine tank cleaning. The bosun entered a dry cargo hold to inspect the bottom plating. Unknown to the crew, anaerobic bacterial buildup had produced hydrogen sulfide in the bilge water. He collapsed instantly. 2 deckhands rushed in to help. No SCBA, no gas testing, and both were overcome in seconds. 3 lives lost in under 5 minutes. What were the findings? No permit to work, no gas detection, no awareness of potential gas buildup, no proper training on emergency response. What's the takeaway? These weren't new crew. These weren't careless men. They were people doing what they believed was just another job. But it was that very assumption that it should be fine that killed them. Lessons learned. Never trust the appearance of a space. Never skip the checklist. Never enter without testing and standby rescue plans in place. Always treat enclosed space entry as a high-risk operation, because it is. Remember, the most dangerous sentence on any vessel is, "We've always done it this way." Today, we learn a better way. This next part is probably the most critical step before entering any enclosed space: atmospheric testing. Let me be very direct. If you haven't tested the air, you have no idea what's waiting for you inside. And no matter how experienced you are, your lungs can't detect danger the way a gas detector can. So let's break this down. Why test the atmosphere? Because enclosed spaces can lack oxygen, contain toxic gases, have explosive vapors, all three at once. And none of these give off a warning. They don't smell strong enough. They don't change the color of the air. They don't make noise. They just wait for your first breath. How do we test it properly? Use a calibrated gas detector. That's been bump tested and verified. Test at 3 levels. Top, because some gases rise. Middle, where the person will be standing or working. Bottom, because heavy gases sink. Let me give you a real example. A space may read safe at chest level, but one step down into the bilge and the alarm suddenly goes off. If you only test at the top, you're missing the danger below. When do you test? Before entry, continuously during the job if possible, immediately. If conditions change, like a power failure, equipment startup, or space left open too long. Remember, gas levels can change quickly. A space that's safe now could be deadly in 15 minutes. Common mistakes to avoid: relying on an old reading, using an uncalibrated meter, testing only at the hatch, not inside, not waiting for the detector to stabilize, not recording the values properly. So here's the mindset I want everyone to adopt. No air test, no entry. It's that simple, because your body doesn't have a gas detector, but your ship does. Use it. Trust it. Let it tell you what your senses can't, and never, ever assume the air is safe just because the job is quick, because danger doesn't care how short your task is. Now, let's talk about something that many people see as just paperwork. But in reality, it's one of the most important safeguards we have: the permit to work system. Let me be clear. If there is no valid permit, there is no safe entry. This isn't about bureaucracy. It's about structured, verified control over hazardous work. It's proof that someone has thought about the risks and taken steps to reduce them. What is a permit to work? It's an official document that confirms the task has been reviewed, the hazards are understood, safety measures are in place, the right people are involved and authorized, and most importantly, no one enters until the ship's responsible officer signs off. A proper enclosed space entry permit will include identification of the space, reason for entry, atmospheric test results, ventilation arrangements, isolation of valves, pipes, or electrical systems, names of authorized entrants, rescue arrangements, communication methods, time limits for entry. Why does this matter? Because the permit is more than just a form. It's a record of responsibility. It shows that every necessary step has been taken before you risk someone's life inside that space. And when you sign a permit, as the entrant or as the person in charge, you're saying, I've checked. I understand the risks. I've made sure it's safe. Let me give you an example. There was a case where a crew member died during enclosed space entry, and during the investigation, the permit was found to be incomplete, not updated after atmospheric testing. Missing a signature, that one piece of paper could have raised a red flag, but it was ignored, and a life was lost. Permit do's and don'ts. Do verify every section before signing. Do make sure all support and procedures are followed. Gas testing, isolation, standby man present. Don't treat it as a tick box exercise. Don't rely on someone else's assumption that it's all good. So from now on, let's treat the permit to work as what it truly is. Your written safety shield. No entry without it. No shortcuts. No exceptions. Every successful enclosed space entry, and more importantly, every safe one, depends on teamwork. And in that team, everyone has a role. Everyone has a duty. And if even one person doesn't do their part, the entire operation is at risk. So let's go through the key roles and responsibilities in any enclosed space operation. 1. The entry supervisor. This is the person in charge of the operation, usually the chief officer or senior engineer. Their job is to make sure the space has been evaluated properly, review the gas testing results, ensure all isolation and ventilation arrangements are in place, confirm rescue plans are ready, and issue the permit to work. They hold the authority to say, yes, entry is safe, or no, stop everything. 2. The entrant. This is the person going into the space, and often the one most at risk. The entrant's responsibilities are to understand the hazards of that specific space, to check that the permit is valid and conditions are safe, to use the right PPE, including gas detector, harness, lifeline, to stay alert and communicate with the attendant, and to exit immediately if they feel unwell, disoriented, or lose communication. Let me be clear. No task inside is more important than your life. If something feels wrong, get out. Report it. No shame, no penalty. 3. The attendant, or standby man. This person never enters the space. Never. They stay outside, fully focused on the entrant. Their responsibilities: maintain constant communication with the entrant, monitor time and any signs of trouble. Never leave the post unattended. Sound the alarm and initiate rescue if necessary. The attendant is the first to respond, not by jumping in, but by raising the alert and following the rescue plan. 4. The rescue team, if assigned. This could be trained crew members with breathing apparatus or an external emergency response team, depending on your vessel's setup. They must know the space layout, be trained in enclosed space rescue, have equipment ready, tested, and nearby. Act fast, but safely and systematically. We never send one person in to rescue. We send a team, equipped, trained, and alert. Why does this matter? Because in almost every fatal enclosed space incident, someone panicked and went in alone. No backup, no plan, just instinct. And unfortunately, it often ends in more loss. So here's what I want you to remember. 1 space, 1 team, 4 roles, all accountable. The supervisor ensures safety is in place. The entrant checks, enters, and works. The attendant watches and guards. The rescue team stands ready. No one works alone. No one acts outside their role. And everyone goes home. Now that we understand everyone's role, let's talk about the most important tool you have before you enter the space, the pre-entry checklist. This list isn't just a formality. It's not extra work. It's a structured way of making sure nothing is missed, because missing one step could cost a life. Let me put it this way. You wouldn't fly an aircraft without a pre-flight checklist. You wouldn't launch a lifeboat without testing it. So why enter a potentially lethal space without checking everything first? What's on the pre-entry checklist? Let's go through it item by item. And I want you to think about why each is there. Checkmark 1, identification of the enclosed space. Make sure the exact space is named, not ballast tank, but which ballast tank. Each space is different. Each has different hazards. 2. Atmospheric testing. Complete and logged. Has the air been tested? Was it done at the top, middle, and bottom? Is the oxygen level safe? Are there no toxic or flammable gases above limits? 3. Isolation confirmed. All pipelines, valves, vents, and electrical systems connected to the space must be isolated, locked, and tagged. Why? Because a valve accidentally opened during entry could flood or fill the space with toxic gas instantly. 4. Ventilation set and running forced ventilation must be in place before entry and run long enough to completely purge the space. Natural airflow is not enough. We need fans or blowers, and they need to stay on during the entry. 5. Valid permit to work. Issued. Is the permit signed by the entry supervisor? Is it still within time limits? Were there any changes since it was issued? If anything has changed, the permit is void. 6. Rescue and communication equipment. Ready. Is the lifeline attached? Is the radio working? Is emergency breathing gear on standby? Is the rescue team aware and equipped? You don't prepare for rescue after the accident. You prepare before. 7. Attendant assigned and briefed. Is the standby man trained, assigned, and fully focused? Does he have instructions on what to do if something goes wrong? Does he know not to enter the space? 8. Entrant fully briefed. Does the person going in understand the hazards, the PPE required, the limits of the task, the signs of danger? If not, stop. No entry until they're briefed and comfortable. 9. Time tracking. Set. Keep track of how long the person has been inside. Fatigue, disorientation, and gas exposure all increase with time. 10. Final safety confirmation. Has everything been double-checked? Not assumed, not rushed. Checked and confirmed. Here's the takeaway. The checklist is not a suggestion. It's a life-saving habit. Even if you've done the job 100 times, do the checklist like it's the first time, because that one time you skip it might be the time something goes wrong. Let's make it a rule on board. No checklist, no entry, no excuses. So far, we've talked about the theory, the what, the why, and the how. But as you know, on a ship, knowing the procedure is not enough. You need to be able to apply it. You need to make it muscle memory. That's where the demonstration or drill comes in. Why do we conduct enclosed space drills? Because when something goes wrong inside a confined space, you don't have time to figure things out from scratch. You need to react fast, safely, and in sync with your team. A drill shows us who knows what to do, who's ready, and who needs more guidance, where the gaps are in our rescue plan, and how quickly we can mobilize if something goes wrong. What should the drill include? A good enclosed space entry drill will cover pre-entry briefing with assigned roles, completion of the checklist and issuance of a dummy permit to work, setup of ventilation and atmospheric testing with real equipment, Entrant donning proper PPE, harness, gas detector, radio, clear standby position with effective communication, simulated emergency, e.g., entrant collapses or loses contact alert raised, rescue team responds using breathing apparatus, use of tripod or winch to extract the victim safely. Post-drill debriefing, what went well, what needs improvement. Important, no real entry should be attempted during a drill unless full safety conditions are in place, including real gas testing, ventilation, and standby personnel. The goal is to train safely and seriously. During the drill, I want each of you to pay attention to communication, observe body language and warning signs, watch how lifelines are handled. Think, if this was real, would we be ready? Remember this, drills are not just a company requirement. They're the difference between panic and precision. They turn procedures into instinct, and instinct saves lives. So after this session, we will either observe or conduct a demonstration drill, depending on our schedule and your shipboard plan. I want everyone to treat it seriously. This isn't just a practice. This is rehearsal for a real-life situation that none of us ever want, but all of us must be prepared for. Let's now summarize everything we've covered in this video in part 1, because these are the points I want you to carry with you, not just for this training, but for every enclosed space operation in the future. This isn't about remembering the checklist from memory. It's about building the right mindset, the mindset that protects lives. Takeaway number 1, know what an enclosed space is. Not every space on board is safe just because it's familiar. If it's confined, lacks ventilation, and isn't meant for people to stay inside, treat it as hazardous. Takeaway number 2, never underestimate the risks. Low oxygen, toxic gases, and explosions happen in real life to real crew, often silently, often fast. Your senses cannot detect most hazards, only proper testing and procedures can. Takeaway number 3, atmospheric testing is mandatory. Always test at top, middle, and bottom levels. Use calibrated equipment. If there's no reading, there's no entry. Simple. Takeaway number 4, respect the permit to work. The permit isn't paperwork. It's proof that the risks have been checked and managed. Don't treat it like a routine. Treat it like a shield. Takeaway number 5, understand your role. Whether you're the entrant, the attendant, the supervisor, or part of the rescue team, do your job, know your duty, and don't cross roles. Team coordination saves lives. Takeaway number 6, use the pre-entry checklist. Don't trust memory, don't guess. Follow the checklist item by item every time, even if the job is small. Shortcuts kill. Takeaway number 7, drills matter. Don't wait until an emergency to find out you're unprepared. Drills help you respond automatically, calmly, and correctly when real danger appears. Final message for today, every enclosed space entry is serious. No matter how quick, no matter how many times you've done it before. If you don't prepare properly, if you don't respect the procedure, you're putting yourself and your crew in danger. But if you follow the steps, check the checklist, support your team, then you're doing what professionals do. You're protecting life. Let's make safety part of our identity, not just our instructions. Now, we'll move to questions and discussion. But before that, take 10 seconds. Think about one thing from this as training you'll do better from now on. We've covered a lot in this video, from the definition of enclosed spaces, to real-life risks, to the procedures, tools, and mindset needed to stay safe. Now it's time for your voice. This video is not just a formality. It's your opportunity to ask, to clarify, and to share. I want to hear from you. Do you have any questions about what we covered? Is there anything unclear about the permit system, gas testing, or the checklist? Have you experienced situations that felt risky or uncertain? Have you seen shortcuts taken on board? And how were they handled? Let's make this practical. If you've ever thought to yourself, "That space looks safe," or "I wasn't sure, but I went in anyway," now's the time to talk about that. Remember, some of the best lessons come from experience, not slides. So if you've been part of an enclosed space operation that taught you something, good or bad, let's hear it. Maybe your story helps someone else avoid a mistake tomorrow. No judgment here. This is a learning environment. The goal is not to catch people doing things wrong, it's to make things right going forward. So I'll start with a few questions for those watching this video. Has anyone here ever had to stop a job because something didn't feel safe before enclosed space entry? How confident are you with using the gas detector on board? If someone collapsed inside a space, what would you do first? What's the first action? Do you feel we're conducting enough drills related to enclosed space entry and rescue? Take your time. Write your answer in the comments below. This could save lives. Thank you, everyone, not just for watching, but for engaging, listening, write comments, and thinking seriously about what we discussed in this video. Enclosed space entry isn't just another safety topic. It's one of the deadliest operations on board when done incorrectly, and one of the safest when done right. We don't train just to meet a regulation. We train to build a mindset that says, "I won't rush. I'll check. I'll follow the steps because I want myself and my crew to go home safe." So as we close this part 1 session, I want to leave you with a final thought. Every checklist you complete, every gas test you verify, every time you say, "Stop, we're not ready yet," you're not slowing the job down. You're protecting someone's life. That person might be your crewmate. That person might be you. If there's one thing I want you to take away from today, it's this. Never treat any enclosed space as routine, because the only routine we want is that everyone comes back out safely. Thank you again. We'll continue with part 2 in the next video, where we'll go deeper into actual entry procedures, monitoring during entry, emergency response, and rescue protocols. Until then, stay alert, stay safe, and don't just follow the rules. Understand why they exist. Thank you.